Thank you. Plenty of seats down front. Good afternoon. Welcome to a Day at the Races candidate forum sponsored by the League of Women Voters Winchester. I am Rosemary Pye, a member of the steering committee. I want to thank Joanne Michalak, who organized this program, assisted by Leslie Kennedy, Betsy Kreger, and Nancy Schrock. There are 3 parts to the program. First, we'll hear from 6 candidates for 3 town boards, 2 candidates for 1 vacancy on the Board of Selectmen, 2 of the 3 candidates for 2 vacancies on the Planning Board, 2 of the 3 candidates for 2 vacancies on the Board of Library Trustees. The other 2 candidates have scheduling conflicts. Second, we'll have a 30-minute meet and greet of candidates for the contested town meeting member vacancies in precincts 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. That will be in the hallway outside of the auditorium. Then third, promptly at 5, we'll return to the auditorium to hear from the 2 candidates for the state Senate vacancy for the 5th Circuit, 5th Middlesex District, which includes in Winchester precincts 1, 2, 3, and 8. This is the state Senate seat formerly held by Catherine Clark. The other precincts are represented by State Senator Patricia Jalen. Before we begin, a word about the League of Women Voters. First, it's open to both women and men. Throughout its 93-year history, the League has provided fair and enlightening candidate debates for the benefit of voters. The League's activities support informed participation in government and increased public understanding of major policy issues. Based on grassroots membership input, the League also seeks to influence public policy through education and advocacy. Our moderator today is Patty Muldoon, who's from Arlington, from the Arlington League. She's not voting in this election, which is our standard procedure, and she's a trained League moderator. She has moderated prior candidate forums for us, and we're very pleased to have her back. She'll be explaining the ground rules and start the debate. Thank you, Patty.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be supporting my neighborhood community of Winchester again as a neutral League moderator. Hopefully today's forum will help you get a clear picture of each candidate who is seeking your vote. So as Rosemary explained, we have an ambitious forum today, so take notes. Aside from the break, those in the auditorium can meet your town meeting candidates one-on-one. All of the parts of the format will follow the same procedure. I'll present brief biographies submitted by the candidates, and then the candidates present a short opening statement of 1 minute on why they're running. The order of the opening statements was determined earlier by a coin toss. Questions have been submitted by the public in advance, and the candidates will usually have 1 minute to respond and 30 seconds for rebuttal. Candidates have not seen the questions. As a moderator, I may follow up on a question, and then I'll give the candidates the time limit at that point as well. Each candidate will present a 1 minute closing statement on why they deserve your vote. So our goal here is to maximize the value of everyone's time to help voters form a full and balanced view of each candidate. Therefore, to the candidates, you do not have to rebut. You do not have to use your full time. I know it's not a lot. If you're succinct, we might be able to fit in another question from the audience. And then to the audience present, we've already gathered and organized questions, so we won't be taking any new questions from the floor. And I encourage you to applaud only at the end of each section. The 2 candidates unable to participate due to scheduling conflicts are Ben Schuler, running for the Planning Board, and Joan Warwich for Library Trustee. And both of them did submit biographies that I will read later. And if they submitted a statement, I will include that as their closing statement. So with that said, I don't want to spill my drink. We will begin with the Winchester Board of Selectmen candidate biographies. So, As you know, the Board of Selectmen is made up of 5 members. The executive order of authority of the town is vested in the Board of Selectmen. It's the responsibility of the selectmen to see that the laws and orders of the town are enforced and that official records are kept. They have broad appointive powers and are the licensing authority for the town. The board is a policy-making body except for those policy matters reserved to town meeting. On April 1st, voters will elect one selectman for a 3-year term. So I'm going to read their biographies now. Listen closely because you'll only hear their life story once. Douglas Marmon has lived on Kenwin Road for the last 38 years. He and his wife, Mary Ann, raised their 3 children, sending them through the Murkow, McCall, and the high school, and they now have 2 grandchildren. Doug attended Harvard College, spent 5 years working for Citibank on Wall Street, and then returned to Boston with a software company focused on the investment industry. He worked for a number of banks and software firms and ran his own consulting firm. 5 years ago, he became a full-time volunteer. He has deep roots in this community. He has served on the boards of the Boat Club, the Historical Society, the Griffin Museum, and his church. He has been a selectman for the past 3 years and chairman of the board for the last year. Previously, he served on the Finance Committee and the Capital Planning Committee. Stephen Powers was born in Winchester. He has been married to Susan Chase Powers for 49 years, and they have 3 daughters, Cheryl, Sandra, and Stephanie, all of whom graduated from Winchester High. Stephen works in sales and leasing at Bunnell Ford. Stephen is very experienced in Winchester town government. He is the current chairman of the Board of Assessors and has served on the board for 11 years. For 12 years, he also was a member of the Board of Selectmen until the year 2000. In the 80s, he was on the school committee for 3 years. He has served continuously as a town meeting member since 1985. Stephen is active with all sports groups. He was varsity hockey coach for Winchester High School, 1965 to 66 and 66 to 67. So now we will move on to opening statements. And the first opening statement will begin with Stephen Powers. You have 1 minute. The cards will show at 30 seconds to give you a reminder, and then you'll see a stop sign. Please.
Thank you very much. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having a forum. I think it's a good idea. I love the fact that people are running for office because I think that's the way it should be, and the best results come that way. I'm running because I think the Board of Selectmen need a little lesson in transparency on what's been going on, particularly with the health care issue. But I think the public is owed as much in public as you can without making it legal, and that would be up to town council. I think that we need a long-range plan, a 5-year plan, and I'm interested in the Wright Lock Farm property. I'm interested in the environmental concerns at the high school. The current health care issue is big, and I think people have a little empathy when they're doing that. I want to review all the playing fields, and I think that an option of installing lights at Manchester Field, that field's going to be down for 3 years at Skilling's.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll get to some of those issues. And now I'd like to invite Doug Marmon to speak.
I too want to thank the board. I'm running for re-election because I believe the town needs continued strong leadership, particularly in finances. And I've provided that leadership through reasonable and prudent policies arrived at through good communications. The selectmen have held budget summits for the past couple of years, attended by the school committee, the capital planning committee, and the finance committee. And we listened to each other's issues, and we agreed on a budget framework covering the next 3 years. The school committee made tough choices to delay some of their new initiatives that I know they wanted, but their budget was accepted without any cuts. That's the sort of cooperation that we haven't seen in years. Last December, the taxpayer stepped up to an override for the biggest capital project ever, the new high school. The selectmen supported this project with some financial analysis and tax rate projections, and fostered extensive communication among the boards and with the citizenry, an issue that easily could have divided the town as overrides often do.
Thank you.
This one brought the town together.
So now we're going to move to the question and answer period. And as you know, the questions were solicited in advance from everyone in the public here. Candidates will respond in alphabetical order, and then we'll flip so that each of you has a chance to go first several times. Responses will be 1 minute. Rebuttals, if you wish, will be 30 seconds, and I might follow up if it seems appropriate. We're guessing we will get through 7, maybe as many as 9 questions in the time that we have. So beginning with candidate Marmon, what qualities are required to be an effective selectman, and what qualities and skills do you bring?
Well, I'd say the first one is to be a good listener, because we have to find out what the town needs and how we can go about bringing it together, a political sense of that. And I obviously think I have that quality. You also have to be able to look into the distance some ways and analyze problems of how they are going to affect the future. Certainly in finances, that's true.
Thank you. And candidate Powers, please.
I think long-range planning is important. It was supposed to be a 5-year plan. It became a 3-year plan. I think that was not good. I think communication between the boards is very important, and I think experience in dealing with people is very important. Whether you can work with people even on your own board, I think that's important. Thank you.
And if either of you would like to take the opportunity to respond.
Yeah, I'll say one thing on the 5-year plan. We really did try to come up with a 5-year plan and worked with the Finance Committee on it. And we had the kind of formulas that would let the plan go out 5 years. But it turned out that we really didn't know anything about what we were doing out there 5 years. It really was not helpful to us. So we pulled back into a range that we thought we understood at a good 3-year plan.
Mr. Powers.
I think that's probably well and good, but I think if the moderator, Peter Haley will be the new one, asked me for a 5-year plan sitting on the Board of Selectmen, he will get one, not a 3-year plan.
Moving on to our next question. We will begin with Mr. Powers. What are your top 3 priorities as a newly elected selectman? 1 minute.
Certainly, the health care issue is a big one. I think the second issue would be the financial plan that I think we need. And the third issue would probably be the Right Lock Farm. I'm very happy with the Conservancy, but I think it's time to get on with that. If they want to buy it, let's sell it to them, because there's debt coming in there, 3 years with the high school debt, and we'll really be in trouble. Thank you.
Mr. Marmon.
I certainly agree. Well, let me start. I think one of the factors we have to work with is automation in town hall. I think that we've got a website that doesn't work too well. Or it works well, but it doesn't communicate a lot, and we're coming up with a new one. The town hall could do much of its business through automation. I think that's a way we could get some real efficiencies. I do think we there are a bunch of financial issues we have to deal with, Right Lock Farm being one of them. We have to do that in such a way that we don't make life difficult for the farm, and yet we have to return most of the money that we invested in that to the town coffers.
Thank you. You guys are being exceptionally succinct, so thank you for that. Mr. Powers, do you want to add a rebut to that?
I think basically that the only rebuttal I'd have is that we still need a plan, and that this is $12.5 million of the public money. It's not a private club, so I think it's done a great job, but I think it really needs to be brought to an end. I hope that they want to buy it, but I think it has to be ended. Thank you.
And I can say that the board understands that we have to move forward on this, and we are in the process of putting together an RFP. We have waited through the fall to make sure that the Conservancy can determine how much money they can generate, because if they can buy a piece of it, that makes everybody happy. They're happy to get a piece, and we're happy to get the money.
Thank you. And I would just mention that RFP is request for proposal.
Thank you very much.
Sure. We're actually out of rebut time
Okay.
on that one. But you always have your closing statement. Moving on to our next question. The Planning Board has been working on rezoning the downtown. What do you see as the role of the selectmen in this discussion, and how important do you regard this effort as it relates to the future of the town and its tax base? Again, 1 minute, Mr. Marmon.
Well, first, I think this is a very important project. The town center, this is a way that we can revitalize the town center for years to come. Zoning is certainly a part of that. We need to make it easier to build retail shops with housing above them. Zoning's always difficult, and the role of the board is to encourage the planning board and to help them move it along and to try to grease the skids for the zoning that is coming along. There are lots of other parts to this town center initiative. We're going to get a new train station, and that has to be designed so that it supports growth and helps it come along. We're investigating a business improvement district to help businesses get money so that they can market themselves in ways. We got a new bikeway coming through. There's lots of things that are happening, and this is one of the most important projects for the long run that we have.
Nicely timed. Mr. Powers.
Yes, I think the selectmen can help with the process by setting up some group that will help process planning, building. I think the infrastructure, we can help them with sewer hookups because there's going to be more required. And I think parking is a huge issue. I think the idea of bringing everyone into town and then all of a sudden, where are we going to put them? Because anyone thinks that we don't have a parking problem now, they don't drive to downtown Winchester. But I'm very positive on the project, and I hope that it works and that the planning board does what they should do.
And Mr. Marmon, did you want to?
Parking's a good thing. You know, we have changed the parking in town, trying to get the employees, the people who work for the town center shops to park on the periphery so that the customers can come in and park close by, and I think we've been successful in doing that. Certainly we have a management plan in place that allows us to control what's going on, and will we have enough parking? Maybe not, but I think we're using the parking as best we can.
Mr. Powers?
I think that the plans on the parking, I think the planning board is working on that all the time. I think the parking garage in the old days would have been the right way. It got killed by town meetings, surprisingly, and I think if we had one there, it'd be nice. But I agree with those comments.
The Board of Selectmen has resisted spending free cash to plug budget gaps and to make sure the town maintains its AAA bond rating. How do you view the use of free cash, and how important do you think it is to protect the AAA bond rating? Mr. Powers.
Thank you. Free cash right now is $3.4 million. There's $4 million in the general stabilization fund. That's $7.4 million in reserves. I think there's a 6 to 8% rule with the Board of Selectmen that they've established, but I have a problem with capital not being funded, period, with some money sitting there that you could use and still stay under the 6%.
Mr. Marmon.
Well, I certainly believe that our reserve policy is very important. We have to have funds available for emergencies come up. There are a whole bunch of things we know could happen. The bond rating agencies certainly like to see our reserves being high, and to lose our bond rating would be disastrous, knowing we're going to have to go out and borrow $100 million in the next couple of years. So I definitely think it's important. We have to maintain them, and we actually have to grow them some, because the high school, when it comes online, will actually increase our budget, and hence will increase our need for reserves to keep the percentage just where it is.
The Board of Selectmen have a rule that they can go to one-time capital project by a vote of the selectmen. I think one example of that would be not spending near amount of money to affect the bond rating, but we could buy an ambulance, for instance, as a capital project and fund it with general stabilization money, and that would require a 2/3 vote at town meeting, which is pretty safe. You'd have to sell it there. Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
There are a number of capital projects that do need to be funded. There's no doubt about that. With a little bit of luck, we can get some money reverted at the end of the budget season. We usually appropriate a little more than is needed because it's a lot of trouble to appropriate more as you go along. So some money comes back, and we will use that money for capital projects, assuming that some of it comes up.
All right. The capital and building stabilization accounts are unable to keep up with the list of capital and building repair needs of the town. Would you be supportive of another override to recapitalize these accounts? Mr. Marmon.
The two stabilization funds still take in a lot of money, but they were bonded. I mean, the projects were bonded, so now that money goes almost entirely to debt service. And in hindsight, perhaps that was not a good way to have used those funds. In a short answer, could I support a general override for capital? Having just done the high school, I think the answer is simply no. I think going forward, I would suggest that we put together capital projects and put them out for debt exclusion overrides. I think the public is much more willing to fund something when they know what it is, and they know that when they pay for it, the tax rate will go back down.
Mr. Powers.
Thank you. The Building Stabilization Fund and the Capital Stabilization Fund were established by an override vote in 2002, and they're specifically for capital projects. The building stabilization is essentially committed for the next 5 years. So if someone were to say, I think we've done a good job, I think those funds have done a good job so far, and at this point, I would not entertain a capital question, but I would be willing to work with that general stabilization money to get a couple of things done. We're on like a 3-year problem right now. Thank you.
Mr. Marmon, do you need to add anything?
I'm not quite certain I understood. We do have some money in the Capital Stabilization Fund. We'll be spending probably $700,000 out of that this year, which is good, but I think we both agree that it's not enough, but we have to live within our means.
All right. Our next question comes with real estate issues. The value of Winchester real estate continues to increase at rates far in excess of inflation. Many elders are seeing their real estate taxes increase as the homes in their neighborhoods sell for higher and higher prices. Would you support some sort of real estate tax postponement or tax relief for older residents? Mr. Powers.
Yes, this is in my area, the assessors, and we do provide, you can defer your taxes completely at this point if you want to, just by filling out forms at the office. And I think that that is a great question, and there's other state programs, and a lot of people avail themselves of it, but we send out information all the time with the tax bill, and I'm not sure that the seniors, and they're very good over to the Jenks, they talk to them about it, but I think they could use these methods a lot better if they studied them more. Thank you.
I really can't add anything to that. I do believe that we have some programs in place, and we encourage the elders to use them. The fact that the taxes are high in this town, I don't really think it's related to the assessment. It's related to the needs of the town, but it's too bad that we have some people who are squeezed, and we have these programs and they should use them.
Sounds like you're in agreement. Do you want to add, Mr. Powers?
No, I'm fine with that. Just contact the assessor's office if there is a problem, and they'd be glad to help you.
One place I'm sure we agree.
Okay, we've got agreement from the candidates. Many communities, including Winchester, are facing unpaid pension liabilities. Winchester's obligation approaches $100 million. How would you propose to budget for this obligation, both short-term and long-term? Mr. Marmon.
It is hard to cover this topic in a minute, but assuming that you understand what the problem is, that we have that $100 million liability, we have to address the problem or it will continue to grow, eat up our operating budget, and threaten our bond rating. The selectmen are asking the retirees who can afford it to pay half of their health insurance. And that doesn't seem outrageous to me because 92% of private retirees have no employer contribution to their health insurance. And the board remains committed to a fine-tuning a plan to address hardship cases. I think it's essential that the retirees contribute something to this problem. The town is going to have to contribute something to this problem. It's too big a problem to think that we can dump it on one side or the other.
And yet you did it in a minute. Mr. Powers.
We need to develop a comprehensive plan to review the health insurance and make sure we're getting good coverage. And I think the last round we didn't do that well. The health insurance, I think most of the employees are complaining about because deductibles and co-pays go up. We should analyze what other communities are doing. We should develop a funding schedule for the liability, which I think they are doing. They're talking about it. And I personally believe we should be grandfathering these seniors. We made a deal with them. They're hardworking people. They don't have the money that people have out of industry. And what they had was benefits, and the town is now taking the benefits away. Last new retirees would pay on the newly established retiree contribution rate, which I absolutely agree with. Thank you.
Mr. Powers.
I believe that Mr. Powers, I don't want to be too critical here or skeptical, but I don't believe that he has a plan at all except to push off the issue until he has a chance to think about it. The Finance Committee has studied this problem. We had a special GASB 45 group that wrote a report on this. We had two actuarial studies. The Board of Selectmen considered this pretty carefully and voted 5-0 that the retirees have to contribute to the solution. We also said that we'd have a mitigation plan, and right now there are discussions going on with Jason Lewis, a group of the retirees, and some selectmen to see how we can make this mitigation plan solve most of the hardship cases. I think we're on the right track, and we have to keep going. I'm optimistic that we'll be able to come up with a plan
Thank you.
Published this month that will be in place at least 3 months before any of these changes take place.
Do you want to add a 15-second rebuttal?
Yes. The plan, there's only 4 communities in the Commonwealth that have done what the town of Winchester did. Foxborough, Hull, Somerville, and Winchester. The rest of them left their retirees alone. In the plan, they passed this in 2012. How long are we going to wait for a plan?
All right. Just as we're getting really into the meat of things, I need to wrap up this section of questions. Despite your phenomenal job in trying to be succinct, we do need to move on to our closing statements. So if you will be so good as to begin, Mr. Marmon, you'll have a minute to add anything you needed to add really quick.
Get running here, okay. The future looks bright for our town. The plans are underway to revitalize the town center. We talked about that a little bit, to increase retail shops and restaurants, and thereby to increase the tax base, which might take a little pressure off our residential tax bills. I've worked with the MBTA group that's designing the train station to make sure it's attractive and promotes growth. I've worked with the planning board to create zoning changes that will encourage development in the center, and in particular will make it easy to build housing over retail. Another bright spot is the Right Lock Farm. It's a vibrant part of our community, supporting history and education and recreation for all age groups. The town must sell the land that surrounds it and recoup some of its investment, but it has to do this in a way that doesn't stunt the growth of that institution. There are exciting opportunities ahead for Winchester to make it even greater than it is today. I urge voters to look forward, not backward to the policies of the past, and I ask for your vote on April 1st.
Thank you. Stephen Powers.
Thank you very much. I think you should be electing someone that understands the values in Winchester, and that would not be putting the seniors under the proverbial bus. I respect all the town employees, current and retired. I believe the Board of Selectmen should be transparent and perform their duties as outlined in the town charter. I do have a little problem lately. They can meet every other week. When I was there, we met every week, and we didn't have enough time. So I'm trying to figure out how they really can do it. They must be a lot smarter than we were. Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Let's give them a hand. And I would like to invite the planning board candidates to please come up to the stage. And while they are settling in, let me fill you in on the planning board. The Winchester Planning Board has 5 members. The board is established by Massachusetts law and is responsible for drafting zoning bylaw provisions, undertaking planning studies within the town, and revising and updating the town's comprehensive master plan. The Planning Board also makes recommendations to the Winchester Zoning Board of Appeals on petitions before the Zoning Board of Appeals for consideration of zoning relief. The board reports annually to the town, giving information regarding the condition of the town and any plans or proposals known to it. On April 1st, voters will fill 2 vacancies on the planning board, each for a 3-year term. So now let me read your candidates' biographies that they have submitted. Ben Schuler was born and raised in the Boston area and attended Dartmouth College and Boston College Law School for his undergraduate and graduate education. After law school, he was a municipal bond attorney at a Boston law firm, serving as counsel to Massachusetts cities and towns in connection with their bond financing. In 2005, he joined Fidelity Investments, where he currently serves as the Director of Municipal Bond Research for Fidelity's bond and money market funds. Mr. Schuler is married with 2 children, and his family has lived in Winchester for 5 years. Due to a previous commitment, Mr. Schuler could not attend today's candidates forum and declined to submit a statement to be read by the moderator. Now, I hope I get this name, so you're gonna straighten me if I don't. Charles, help me out.
Say it. Sekaris.
Sekaris. I'm so afraid
It's
to
a
say
toughie.
that.
It's a toughie.
Charles Sekaris. All right, so we don't have his biography to read. And I'm going to move on to Jackie Welsh. She has lived in Winchester for 17 years. She and her husband have raised 5 children here. All of her children attended Ambrose, McCall, and one at the high school. For 8 years, she served on the Winchester Personnel Board, including as chairman. During her tenure, the board made recommendations to town meeting regarding the town's employee structure and specific matters related to non-union and union employees. As a board member, she met with town hall officials and considered personnel-related information. The Personnel Board serves as an advisory capacity to the town manager, the Board of Selectmen, and other elected boards. She's also served on the boards of the Winchester Foundation for Educational Excellence and the Winchester Music School. In addition, she has practiced law for many years as a litigator, both at a large firm, Goodwin Proctor, and more recently at the Massachusetts Attorney General's office. although she's not currently there. She graduated from Georgetown University Law School and holds master's and bachelor's degrees from the University of Virginia. So we will now begin with the Planning Board opening statements, and as previous candidates, you will have 1 minute. Jackie Welsh, please begin.
Thank you. Thank you to the League of Women Voters of Winchester. Thank you to all those in the audience today and also those viewing the programming. Also, I'd like to thank Mr. Sekaris for joining me here today at the table. I just wanted to highlight a few other things that weren't mentioned in the biography. Winchester, as we all agree, is a beautiful and vibrant town with a community feel, real estate variety, as well as proximity to Boston. The Planning Board has evolved from its role designated in the bylaws to working with the town planner, revising its master plan, developing a town center initiative, and parking plan and other projects. If elected, I would apply my time and energy and make sure that all opinions on all viewpoints and all issues and projects are fully heard and try to move the issues and the projects ahead. I am a strong believer in both economic development as well as preservationist issues.
Thank you. Perfectly timed. Mr. Sekaris.
Thank you, and again, thank you very much for the League for conducting this program. As the moderator just mentioned, of the 4 responsibilities of the Planning Board, I feel the overarching responsibility for the next few years, is drafting the zoning bylaw for the town center. In 2001, I was a member of the Winchester Vision and Strategic Planning Committee. Sorry. Its purpose was to consider the town's future. A series of community outreach events to solicit opinions were conducted over a 2-year period. In the opinion of most residents, the 3 most important assets of the town were quality of the schools, quality of the town center, and quality of the open space system. This was also the beginning of further consideration of the town center itself. The Planning Board in the past few years has done an enormous amount of work with its consultants, doing research on traffic, parking, economic development, preservation, and aesthetics. It is now time to recommend a zoning change to town meeting. This will entail making those final decisions that put a bite into a zoning bylaw, heights of buildings, density, FAR, and parking requirements. These decisions should be a balance between economic development opportunities to keep a strong, viable center and maintaining a village quality.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can everyone hear both candidates? No. Can you both bring the mics even closer? Okay, just say something into the mic, say hello or something.
Hello.
Good?
Hello.
Much better, thank you.
Frightened me.
We need the help of everybody to make this work. So we're going to the question and answer section. Once again, candidates this time will be responding in alphabetical order, and it will then reverse. 1 minute responses, rebuttals, as needed for 30 seconds. And I might follow up, and if I do, I'll tell you how long you have. We're guessing will be about 7 or 8 questions in the time that we have. So let's begin. What qualities are required to be an effective planning board member? And what qualities or skills do you bring? Mr. Sekaris.
I think patience, coupled with stick-to-itiveness. I think that the planning board will be confronted in the next year or so to get an approval by town meeting in order to change the zoning. And that'll take an awful lot of work, communication skills. I believe I have those skills, and I can be of help to the board. When I was on the planning board in previous years, we did a zoning change of the upper Main Street. And from that experience, I know the amount of work it involved in community outreach to assure that the town meeting is educated. As you may know, it's a very arcane thing. Zoning is very difficult, very arcane, and a lot of people get confused by it. And without a proper education prior to town meeting vote, I'm concerned that it wouldn't happen properly.
Thank you. Ms. Welsh.
Thank you. Given my 17 years of living in Winchester and raising children here, I've seen our love of Winchester expand almost on a daily basis. Now I find that my kids are consumers at all of the wonderful retail establishments in town center, whereas previously I used to just carry them there. And it's a wonderful thing to have seen this, passing on to the generations just in the amount of time that I've lived here. I completely agree with what Mr. Sekaris has said, although I do believe that my background in law, having especially served as a litigator and trial lawyer, I'm a very quick study, including of legal regulations. I'm not intimidated in any way with analyzing and understanding zoning bylaws and modifications. I do completely agree with Mr. Sekaris that it's very important to make sure that you hear all viewpoints as far as people's opinions of the pros and cons of different modifications. I feel that all of my experiences definitely qualify me for this position.
Thank you. Mr. Sekaris, do you want to add in 30 seconds?
I really don't have anything to add. The ability to listen to an awful lot of people, a variety of boards, and all the boards in the town meeting members, I think that's very important to educate them properly and hopefully for a 2/3 vote in town meeting.
30 seconds if you want to.
No.
Or we can go on.
That's fine.
Great. What are your top 3 priorities as a newly elected planning board member? Top 3, Ms. Welsh.
Thank you. Although my past experience working as on an appointed board in Winchester has focused primarily with the personnel board, but through that experience I did come to have a deep understanding and appreciation of the personnel structure in town, as well as the very vital and important roles of the Board of Selectmen and other elected boards, including the Planning Board. And I've reviewed all of the current documents that have been studied and prepared, and after a lot of time-consuming efforts, including the Town Center Study Initiative and the revision to the master plan. But my key points that I'd like to emphasize include streamlining the permitting process to really encourage economic development, help to create a business development council or a business investment district in town center, and also to support town center residential development. I have several other ideas, but my time's elapsed, so hopefully I'll get to them later.
And Mr. Sekaris, your top 3.
Yes. I think the 2 things that I think are fairly important is to get the zoning secured by town meeting for the town center, because that's the thing that's going to provide the opportunity for economic development. On the other hand, I think that we have to have a real balance. There are many people who really enjoy the center, its village quality, and this really should be maintained. I think the fact that the railroad station might be moved up a little bit to encourage people coming in and off the trains to go buy retail establishments in town, which it does not do today. I think that'd be a great asset. The other big thing is flood mitigation, and that is from the traffic circle all the way up to Stop and Shop. In the future, that's going to be, in case of a terrible flood, it's going to be 2 feet underwater. What it also means that if you're a private entrepreneur and you want to build a building along that strip, you're going to have to elevate your building at least 2 feet, probably 2 feet 6 inches. And that's a little bit of a problem. If you think of bookends in that block, sorry.
Thank you. Ms. Welsh, you can rebut or add 30 seconds.
No,
Very
sounds
good. Did you want to finish your thought?
Yeah, bookends is an example of that building is in fact elevated. It was done for aesthetic reasons rather than flood mitigation, but that will be typical along that strip. So it's going to add another burden to a developer, and I think that the planning board recognize in formulating the requirements for the zoning should understand this.
What kind of development would you like to see within Winchester's town center? Mr. Sekaris again.
I think clearly it's an opportunity because of the railroad station. It's an opportunity for really a sustainable Winchester. That is, people will be able to live downtown on residential on the upper floors and retail on the lower floors. I think that be able to walk to the railroad station is a terrific opportunity, and as a result of that, I think that we have to lessen the burden of parking per residential unit in order to encourage that kind of development.
Ms. Welsh.
Thank you. As I mentioned before, I have my 3 priorities that I touched on, but I also have several other ideas that are equally important to me. And I'm sure that Mr. Sekaras and I probably agree with more than we disagree. In fact, we may not disagree on anything because most people agree on the revitalization of town center and all of the business areas. The only thing I would supplement with what Mr. Sekaras said is that I am a strong proponent of encouraging residential development in town center, but I also truly believe there are opportunities even a few blocks outside of town center that could also be supported as far as residential development, maybe simultaneously with other development projects that would encourage residential options in town center. In addition, some other ideas are the Aberjona River Greenway usage. As we all know, the town has just widened the Aberjona River, and there's some beautiful opportunities that probably are already being discussed and will be in the future. And I think those are really neat avenues for the future of our town overall picture. In addition, I'd like to help revitalize the town green.
Okay, given that we have a lot of questions, do you need to rebut?
Just a 30-second one. I think there's something that we do not agree on. That is not the two of us, but people in town in general. I think a lot of people do agree that we should have a mixed-use downtown, retail above, retail and residential above. What we do not agree on is the height, FAR, parking requirements, all those very difficult issues that we're going to be confronted with. And this board is going to have to deal with that in order to present this to town meeting. Those are the things that we are not in agreement with, and it'll take an awful lot of patience and listening to resolve that.
FAR means, Mr. Sekaras, you referenced.
I'm sorry?
FAR, you referenced.
Floor area ratio, that
Thank
is
you.
the amount of volume that can be placed on a given site.
Thank you. Ms. Welsh?
Sorry.
Good. All right. In what way is the type of development you described either consistent with or not consistent with the smart growth planning principles? You have 30 seconds to your response. And Mr. Sekaras.
I think that this town could be an example of sustainability in their residential quarters. It is really set up for it. It's an excellent train section. The Lowell line is one of the oldest lines going to Boston. I can be into my office in about 15 minutes, which is really extraordinary. True, I'm right near North Station, but it's pretty darn impressive. And that kind of development can easily be employed in this town. And I favor it and I encourage it.
Ms. Welsh.
Yes, I would just like to add two points to supplement what Mr. Sekaras just said. You know, clearly because of our public transportation options in town, our town is very unique in that way. Many towns that are even just very close by us don't have the many advantages as far as rail service and bus service and also proximity on Route 93 south into Boston. So I completely agree with that. Our town is like a perfect paradigm, if you will, for the smart growth initiatives. And I think that while we all are preservationists in our own ways, clearly the vitality and economic development in our town is extremely important.
The ongoing Town Center Planning Initiative is taking far longer to complete than was initially envisioned. In your opinion, what are the reasons for these delays? What skills would you bring to the Planning Board that would help them complete this initiative? Ms. Welsh.
Well, I don't pretend to know all of the ins and outs of what has caused a lot of the considerable time that has been taken. I will just focus on a few things in my background that I believe qualify me to really improve the current situation, which is that I'm very much of a quick study. While I'm a process-oriented person and I definitely plan on hearing all viewpoints, I absolutely move issues. As my past experience being in particularly a trial attorney, clearly when issues are, you have to become a quick study on issues and then move them and present them in a way that that helps move them forward. I think that there's a lot more in agreement in our town than disagreement, and I believe that my skill set is such that I can definitely help the timing of a lot of these important issues that the Planning Board faces.
Mr. Sekaras.
Could you state the question again?
Sure. The Town Center Planning Initiative is taking much longer to complete than expected. So why? And what skills would you bring to the Planning Board to help them complete the initiative?
I think it's important to realize that when you change zone, it's a very comprehensive evaluation of a circumstance. And so far, a lot has been accomplished. Now, true, I personally am a little frustrated. I remember the current chair of the planning board and myself were on a committee in 2001 on the vision committee for this town. And so it's been 13 years. Now, the final, and incidentally, the research required in order to change zoning is very much in depth. That research has been done, and I think it's been done very successfully. So now it's a question of moving ahead and getting to town meeting. In order to get to town meeting, and I've seen the experience of, I bring with me my experience in my own private office. I deal with a lot of communities and zoning issues. And zoning is a very difficult thing to talk to a body about. It's arcane, it's difficult, it's confusing, and without proper education prior to town meeting vote, I think people would be very confused. So that's it.
I would just mention that as a prior member of the Personnel Board and also as for a certain number of years as its chairman, I had to make several presentations to town meeting, and in some instances, the matters that I was discussing and advising on were arcane and very detailed, and I have had a fair amount of zoning background. I'm not a real estate attorney, but I believe that packaging the information in a way that is absolutely understandable quickly to town meeting members is a very important role of a planning board member. So I'm very optimistic that as a member of the planning board that I can facilitate those matters.
Mr. Sekaras, 30 seconds.
I think not. Thank you.
All right. How would you balance competing objectives for the town center development, particularly the trade-offs between economic growth and historic preservation? Mr. Sekaras.
This is the issue. Not only historic preservation, but the town quality. That is the village quality of our town center. I believe that there are two aspects of historic preservation. One is a particular building that has significance. The other one is the charm of a community. For instance, if you look at the Locatelli block, that courtyard, that to me is a case in point. It's a lovely little space. And what we should do is have an urban design evaluation of the town center. I do this for communities all over the place. And what you try to do is to identify those very, very important things that become the essence of the town center, of this town center, and make sure that those things aren't, that they're perpetuated and not damaged. And also to try to identify those negative aspects and to try to resolve those aspects. I mean, that sounds simplistic, but there's a methodology to it, and it should be done.
Ms. Welsh?
I don't disagree with anything Mr. Sekaras said. I think he was very eloquent, and I agree with everything he said. I would simply add that I truly believe that every business development project in some way in Winchester, maybe not everyone, but many of them, do have preservationist issues in some way, in some manner. Otherwise, they wouldn't even be proposing them in Winchester, which is, by its very nature, a very historic, beautiful town. And so, coming from the perspective of being very pro and supportive of economic development, I think there are many ways to see the preservationist benefits of economic projects, or to point out to planners or to business developers different aspects of the design and project that will actually enhance what their design is. And I do believe that that's part of the role of the planning board. So I guess the bottom line is, I really strongly believe that you can be both people at one time. And we all agree fundamentally that the economic vitality of our town is extremely important.
Mr. Sekaras, do you?
I'd like to remind everyone that in 1985, there was plywood on Thompson Street. Now, we have to remember that. And there are a few people in the audience who do remember it. And in 1985, there was a development committee called the Downtown Economic Development Committee that was formed to see what on earth we can do about it. I was on that committee, and in fact, I chaired it. And I was on it for 7 years, and that was the beginning of the turnaround, of the retail turnaround of the town. All I'm saying is that we mustn't expect extraordinary taxes out of the retail component, because it'll hurt the community again. Town center is important to us. It's important because there's a sense of place. There's a real there here in Winchester. A lot of communities don't have this.
Ms.
I
Welch?
completely agree.
Okay. Moving on, do you support the town center parking plan? Do you see a need for modification? Ms. Welsh?
I've read the town parking plan a couple times, and obviously I've experienced it like we all have, because enjoy being in town center. I think there are a lot of wonderful features of the new parking plan, and specifically having sort of different areas with different time allotments. I know that some of the new zoning proposals and the warrant articles that are coming before town meeting soon include some aspects of parking, even though they're related to zoning as opposed to the parking plan itself. One of my big important attributes, I think, is that I believe with all of these issues of the planning board, it's really important to continue to get feedback from residents and businesses. So in other words, not just have a project as important as parking plan and say, okay, it's done. Or even one that involves different steps and like, okay, when we get to the final step, okay, it's done. I think it's really important to constantly be asking for feedback from people. You know, do they like this? Is this good? You know, is it a bad situation to have an enforcement officer, you know, handling some situations in different ways? So
Thank you.
That's a really important point for me.
Mr. Sekaras.
I did read the parking plan about a year ago. It's very comprehensive, and given the town physical setup, I think it's difficult to improve upon it. However, the one thing that I really feel is of critical importance in order for me to make downtown a mixed-use development, that parking requirements for residential use downtown simply must be modified. Without it, it would be impossible for anyone to attempt a development of a residential retail building.
I would just like to also add that while the parking plan is and was very comprehensive, clearly as we continue to grow, hopefully, in town, there will be continuing needs to look for other areas for parking, other options. So this is not something that's sort of, okay, we've already kind of completed it and it's over. And I think it's important as a planning board member to always keep that in mind, to always keep revisiting this issue, no matter how comprehensive the plan has been.
I still would like to blow a hole in that wall so that you go from the town parking. I'd still like to blow a hole in that wall supporting the railroad where you go from the Common right through to Thompson Street. I know it's difficult. I know it's probably impossible, but 25 years ago it wasn't. And the town didn't take the initiative, which I think is just too bad.
Thank you. How should Winchester address the need for single-family and multiple-unit housing that is affordable to households with modest incomes and to people with different types of disabilities?
You know, Winchester is a community that welcomes all, and there's absolutely no question that this kind of housing is required. In fact, I don't think that we are respectful yet of the percent required of the state of low and moderate income housing, and I think that should be improved.
As a member of the planning board, I would definitely welcome and help support a variety of development plans that might include these particular types of ideas, not only single family, but also multi-use, and also those that would particularly benefit those who are disabled. And if there are specific ways that we can encourage such plans to come before the board, I would absolutely look in those areas.
That was your official last question. So with that in mind, do you want to take 30 seconds and rebut or add to?
I don't want to rebut her at all. Perfect.
Ms. Welch, same question. Do you want to take 30? All right.
That's what we don't need in the planning board.
Is rebutting.
We need union and conversations.
Okay, all right. So with that in mind, then, it's time for the closing statements, and we will start with Charles Sekaras, please.
In my opening remarks, I emphasized the importance of finalizing the town-centered zoning bylaw. In my closing statement, I'd like to indicate my credentials. I'm a founding partner of the architectural and urban design firm of CBT, Childs, Bertman, Sekaras. During my career, I've served as principal in charge of a variety of planning, urban design, and preservation projects having to do with town centers. This has given me firsthand experience in those issues that will be important to Winchester in the future. This, coupled with my experience in preservation, I feel, can contribute to the issues of the center. I was also a member of the planning board and served as its chair. We introduced the zoning change of Upper Main Street to town meeting, which passed overwhelmingly. Zoning changes are complex and, as I indicated before, arcane. This experience taught me the extent of community outreach that is required to educate the general public, town boards, town committees, and of course, town meeting members. Also, there's an opportunity in the planned redesign of the train station that could enhance development. Winchester should be a leading example of sustainability and transit-oriented development. I feel we will serve as an asset to the board in its community outreach. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie Welsh.
Thank you. Just briefly, I wanted to thank you again for listening to us today, and I also wanted to emphasize that I do believe that my background well qualifies me in the sense that the skills that I would bring to the position as a planning board member include being a quick study on complex issues, and most importantly, listening to different viewpoints. I'm also a very organized person, and I like to move issues forward and implement them, or else move on to the next item on the agenda if there isn't consensus and support. In addition, I just wanted to highlight a few of the other ideas that I have. I think in general, the planning board best serves this community if it not only reviews plans that are presented to it by developers, but also takes proactive measures to try to think about things into the future that would really help our community, both in terms of economic vitality as well as preservationist issues. One, I mentioned the Aberjona River Greenway usage is a wonderful opportunity. Another, revitalizing the town green. In addition is this business investment district idea for economic development in town center. Thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you so much. And in addition to these two fine candidates, you also have Ben Schuler, who could not be here. Let's give a hand to our planning board candidates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And would the Library Board of Trustees candidates please come up? Moving right along. So as we are changing seats, I will just fill you in that the Board of Library Trustees consists of 5 members. The board has custody and management of the library, its property, and budget. On April 1st, voters will fill 2 vacancies, each elected for 3-year terms. Ingrid Geis is the parent of 2 children who have attended preschool through high school in Winchester. She served as a volunteer library staffer at both Lincoln Elementary and McCall Middle School for the last 7 years. She was a founding member of Winchester's Climate Action Task Force in 2010 and charged with drafting a climate action plan for the town. She was also a member of the Climate Action Advisory Committee for the last 2 years and formed to implement the plan's recommendations. Ingrid analyzed the town's waste services as a member of Trash Pickers from 2011 till now, which together with the DPW helped bring single-stream recycling and the SMART, Save Money and Reduce Trash, pilot to Winchester. Ingrid had a 20-year career in investment management before retiring in 26. She has an MBA from Dartmouth and a BA in economics from Barnard College. She and her husband, Stephen Delaney, have lived in Winchester for 16 years. Sarah O'Season and her husband, Jeff Muller, have lived in Winchester since 1984. Sarah attended Radcliffe and the Harvard Graduate School of Design. She worked as an architect for 6 years before she attended business school at Simmons. Since receiving her MBA, she's held a number of finance, administration, information technology, and management roles at Digital Equipment Corporation from 85 to 93 and Harvard University 93 till present. In 2000, Sarah served on the FACTS committee that reviewed the departments and activities of the town of Winchester to inform the town's decision regarding an override. In her current position at Harvard as Managing Director of IT Support Services, Sarah has been actively engaged in working with colleagues to think about how to best coordinate space, technology, and staff to improve libraries' teaching and learning. And we have a third candidate who is not able to be with us, Joan Werwich. She has lived in Winchester for over 19 years with her husband, Stan, and they have 2 sons. She served as an enrichment coordinator, treasurer, and co-president of the Vincent Owens Parent Association. She was also treasurer of the McCall Middle School Parents Association. Ms. Warwich was a longtime member of the Community School Association, the organization that sponsors the townwide Author Fest program. She was elected to the Library Board of Trustees in 2011 and just completed her first 3-year term. She served as chair this past year. Prior to serving on the Board of Trustees, she served on the Board of Directors of the Friends of the Winchester Public Library for 9 years. She was program chair for the Friends for 3 and treasurer for 5 years. In addition, she was member of the community committee that participated in the creation of the library's 5-year strategic plan. Ms. Warwich has a bachelor's degree from Simmons and currently works in a financial position in Boston. And she had a previous commitment, so could not be with us, and I will read her closing statement later. With all of that in mind, we have the Board of Library Trustees opening statements, 1 minute, and the first opening statement will begin with Ingrid Geis.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Winchester is really lucky to have a fabulous library. I want to see that it continues to thrive, and that's why I'm running for this position. Like any business, the library faces challenges, and in my opinion, 2 of the most important challenges are technological change and funding. The library needs to manage the shift away from traditional to online resources in a timely yet sensitive way. It needs to pay for new online services, yet also maintain the standards so that it can continue to ensure state certification. While it does receive some private funding, it does largely have to rely upon the funding of the town, which is unpredictable at times.
Thank you. And Sarah O'Season, please.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League for creating this opportunity for the candidates to speak to the community. I wrote a few lines for the Winchester Star about my interest in this position, so I'm going to really repeat what I said there. I think my qualifications...
We can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Is that better?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'll try to...
It's a good reminder. Look
at
to the
you.
audience. Thank you.
Thanks. I think the main point I'd like to make is that I've had a variety of experience in terms of planning and architecture and finance and technology, and I'd really like to put all of that experience to work to help support what, as Ingrid says, is a great community resource. And I think that the issues that Ingrid mentioned are things that are going to cause us to need to look at how the library needs to change in order to move forward for the community.
Thank you. We'll continue with the same format as before for Q&A sections of 1 minute to speak, 30 seconds to rebut, and you don't have to rebut, and that will allow us to get more questions in, and do so if you need. So beginning with Ms. Geis, what qualities are required to be an effective library trustee?
Well, I think first of all, you need to have a passion for the library, which is not difficult to do, given the resource that we have. I think you need to be a good listener. I think it helps to be analytical, which I am. And I have to say, I've been very impressed with the administration at the library and the current board. I've read the 5-year plan, and I think that they really have a very strong sense of what's happening going forward and what they need to do. So I think most importantly, you need to be a good sounding board and help them to make the best decisions that can be made, given that resources are scarce.
Ms. O'Season.
Thank you. I certainly would agree with those ideas. I think one of the important things about being a good listener is to come into the situation with the sense that there are good solutions that can be formed out of what you hear. And I think that one of the things I've prided myself on in a variety of roles that I've played is being able to be creative and take the information that I do here and come up with a variety of solutions to play those back, be able to talk to people about what might be most successful. So I think listening's important, but being able to synthesize, come up with good ideas, and then communicate them so that people can react and have input into what the decision might be.
Would you like to expand or rebut?
No, that sounds fine.
And that holds true for both of you? Yes. All righty. How would you go about educating yourself on the responsibilities of the Board of Library Trustees for, quote, custody and management of the library, its property, and budget?
How would I go about
Ms.
educating
O'Susan.
myself?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that certainly the beginning is to speak with the current board, with the Friends, and with the library staff. I think, as Ingrid mentioned, we've been very lucky over a number of years to have a very strong library staff, and I think it's going to be important to get them involved or to listen to them and gather information. I think there are a lot of documents, a lot of financial statements, a lot of things to read and absorb, and that's what I would do.
Ms. Geis.
I would agree with all of that. I've had a chance to briefly speak with the director and the assistant director at the library and got a sense from them as to what they think are the most pressing issues of the day. I've had a look at the most recent financial report, annual report, and so have a sense of the library's expenses and what their needs are. And then, as mentioned earlier, have read the 5-year plan, which I thought was very impressive. And so, as a starter, I think I've gotten a good sense of the most pressing issues that they're looking at.
Which leads us, I am assuming we're not rebutting those. No. That leads us to the obvious next question. So what are the opportunities or challenges you see for the library? And we will begin with Ms. Geis.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, one of the biggest challenges is dealing with new technologies. And we're going to constantly be moving away from more traditional resources to online resources. And I know that the library right now in the reference area is trying to start whittling back on book references and using more online services. So we know the direction that we have to head in. Having said that, not everyone is an online user. I think there are people, including myself, who like to go to the library and curl up with a good book. I actually prefer to, peruse the magazines as opposed to looking at them online. And so I think one of the challenges will be moving in that direction, but making sure that all parts of the library community are happy with the changes that are being made.
Ms. O'Susan.
I think one of the technology is certainly one of the great challenges, and the changes in technology are challenges that face all of us. As we've been looking at this in my current role, one of the particular challenges is the fact that different cohorts, different groups, have different attitudes towards technology. And so I think that one of the things we need to do is look at how we can apply technology in the areas where people are demanding it and maintain and preserve some comfort, some physical materials for people to use who need those as well. The reality is that the market is going to drive some of that as fewer and fewer resources are available in physical book form, and we need to come up with ways of helping people become more comfortable using the technology that's going to prevail.
So I would like to ask a follow-up question to the IT issue. You've both spoken in favor of making changes. How exactly would you implement the changes that you have presented? Ms. Geis?
How would I implement the changes? Well, as mentioned again, the strategic plan pretty clearly puts forth what the library board and its administration feel needs to be done. I think, one area that could be explored more is the sharing of online resources. For instance, I know that the librarians work together with school librarians in town to find out what young people who need to, get their homework done and need to prepare for the 21st century need in terms of resources, and if those online resources are necessary, perhaps the public library can work with the school libraries to purchase those resources and thereby, make the money go further. That would be one example.
Thank you. And Ms. O'Season?
I think that certainly we need to look at the library, the technology resources, and look at how they can be shared throughout the library system with the schools, et cetera. I think another thing that actually is quite important is looking at how the space is used to support the focus on different kinds of technology. We certainly in the library layout today have done some of that with the reference area and such, but I think some more creative thinking about how, as time goes by, the spaces can enable people to focus on different sorts of learning and reference and technology will help people find the things that they're looking for.
All right. So, today, do you think the Winchester Public Library meets the needs of your town, and why? Ms. O'Season?
I really, over the 30 years I've been in Winchester, have felt that the library does meet the needs. The town, as we've heard from other candidates for other offices, is a complex community. There are many different constituents, and the library needs to respond to all of them. I feel that it's done a very good job, certainly challenged by budgets and by the complexity of the community it serves. But I think one of the reasons I'm very interested in this role is to help figure out how to continue to do as well going forward.
And Ms. Geis?
I think the library has done a very good job as well, as Sarah said. And I think the administration has been very good about keeping tabs on what resources within the library are being used and which aren't. And so they tried to shift away from those that aren't being used towards areas where there is more demand. They've responded by adding study rooms to the library. They have been very proactive with the help of the Winchester Friends Committee to finance programs to get lifelong learners, to encourage children and boys in particular to read and take more interest in what's going on at the library, putting up scientific exhibits and so forth, just to get kids drawn in. And as I was collecting signatures to run for this position, I was really overwhelmed by how many people, strangers, would tell me how much they loved the library and thought it was just a fantastic place and that they used it. So that was actually very heartwarming.
Everybody loves the library. So, Ms. O'Season, name one area where the library really needs to improve that we haven't already covered.
That's, as you can tell, I'm a little bit stumped by that. I think that the one area I would talk about would be educating people on the use of technology. I'm picking up on the theme previously. Thank you. Helping people use and understand technology so that we together can make the changes that are inevitable for the library and for the resources available there.
Ms. Geis?
I think the library has listened very closely to people's opinions on what could be much better about the library, and they've responded. So when people have complained about there being a lot of noise on the part of teenagers, they've brought in these study rooms. There were a lot of people who mentioned that they wanted expanded Saturday hours during the summer, and they are now planning, that's in the budget, to have that. The one place, I hate to say it, but The one place that's lacking, and to me doesn't have a very evident solution, would be parking. I'm sure we've all had the experience of going to the library and circling around that rather small space trying to find a place to park. That's kind of where we, I guess as a town, come up a little bit short. I don't really see an immediate solution to that.
Arlington has the exact same issue. Well, this has already been brought up once as an idea. Let's explore it further. Should the library and schools work together? How, Ms. Geis?
Yes, absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, and I think they're already doing this to some degree, they should be working together, say at the high school. Kids have to do a lot more online, and they need help with finding out where to go for different things, for their papers and so forth. And I think it's important to have a dialogue between the school librarians and the librarians at the public library to know what the current needs are, and not just specific, but in general where things are going, to make sure everyone's on board. And I guess similarly at the middle school or the elementary school, as kids are learning more about the public library, have a sense of how to just make it a more appealing place, to have ties in with the school curriculums and what they see when they go to the library.
Ms. O'Season.
I certainly agree that the schools and the libraries should work together. I think one of the things about a topic like that is it's a great idea, but how do we actually make it happen? The librarians are busy, they work hard in both locations, and I think one of the questions would be how to find ways to have people attend meetings or have joint meetings to come up with the kinds of ideas that I'm sure they have about how they can help each other in what they do.
Do either of you need to add on?
I think actually that's a great point that Sarah just made, is that as you try and make the library better, there are more and more demands placed on the librarians. So bringing on new online resources, the librarians have to take the time to train customers and so forth. So it is a very tricky balancing act.
Very good. So, what would your response be to someone who says, libraries are not relevant today now that everything is digitized and on the internet? Ms. O'Season.
Well, I think it echoes a conversation I heard at a faculty committee talking about some of the libraries at Harvard. The fact is, and I think everyone here knows, libraries are very relevant. They are places of learning, they're places of communication and collaboration. The fact that online materials can contribute to that is great, but it doesn't eliminate the need for people to come together and have a place to encourage learning. So I think if someone said that to me, I would bring them to the library, I would show them around, I would talk to them about how they learn and how they collaborate, and how they could do it even better in a library.
And Ms. Geis, libraries are irrelevant.
I would agree with what Sarah said, and we've not spent a whole lot of time talking about the multitude of programs that are offered at the library, such as, there are international films that are shown there are speakers that come in the evening, there are storytellers in the children's rooms. I don't know about you, but it's kind of nice to be around people and not always looking at your computer screen, and I think most people feel that. And, as mentioned, we're lucky. We've got the most beautiful library, so why wouldn't you want to be there and spending some time and exchanging views with people?
Thank you. You want to add?
No, thanks.
All right. Should library technology be included in the proposed technology plan for town government and schools? Ms. Geis?
Should library technology be
included in the proposed technology plan for town government and the schools?
Yes, I think so. Because as mentioned before, I would think that going forward, if it's possible for everyone to make time, there should be a collaboration between the schools and the town, and everyone needs to be on the same page to understand what the town and the schools need. in terms of resources.
Ms. O'Season?
I agree. I think that the opportunities for collaboration and for good ideas go across the different town groups, whether it's the schools or the town hall, the library. I also think that some of the resources that might be discussed in each of those areas might be broadly applicable. So I think it's important to look for those opportunities to do things that are more cost-effective and create some economies of scale where that could take place.
So since the both of you said yes, the library should be included in the plan for the government and the schools, and then we've got 3 different areas of management, how do you help bring that about, given the issues that you've raised around that? Ms. Geis, how would your leadership help bring that about?
Well, I think, as mentioned earlier, you have to be a good listener. You have to listen to viewpoints of different constituencies and then get a handle on what's possible. I've worked 20 years in the investment management industry where I've analyzed companies and all of the challenges and have seen many managements deal with a lot of different problems and learn from that. And I've been a town volunteer where I've worked in groups where a lot of discussion and sharing of opinion takes place. And I think, that would be helpful as a start.
And Ms. O'Season, how would your leadership make the difference?
Well, I think that listening is certainly a critical component, but one of the things that I mentioned earlier that I think is very important is that sometimes it's important to get very busy people in the same room talking to each other about a topic. And so I think one of the questions would be how to make that happen on these key themes that cut across the different groups. I think that one of the assumptions I always make is that everyone has good intentions, but in trying to do the thing they've been asked to do, they can often have blinders on.
Thank you. And now we'll move to your closing statements for 30 seconds. Ms. O'Season, Sarah O'Season.
Thank you. I think as we've talked about, the Winchester Library is a wonderful resource for the town and certainly has done a great job over the years, facing in the past and ongoing a number of challenges. We talked a lot about technology. I think another important area is programming, how people use the library and how we can draw them in. And all of that ties to funding, which I think is an important thing for the board and the Friends and the others who are involved to pay a lot of attention to. And I would look forward to being part of those conversations.
Ingrid Geist, please.
First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for organizing this. And I will echo what Sarah said about the library and how wonderful it is, and echo again what I've said, that I think the administration is really on track with addressing future challenges. Funding is always something to have to worry about, particularly when you have to rely upon the town for it. I'm happy to say that for the first time in 7 years, Sunday hour funding is now part of the budget again. Previously, it was privately funded by the Friends. So we seem to be entering kind of a sweet spot right now, but I do think that the technological challenges going forward will require, okay, thank you.
You can finish your sentence. Will require.
Well, we'll require more resources, and so while things are looking good today, just always be wary, because money is a scarce thing. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would like to read to you your third candidate's statement. Joan Warwitz could not be here, as I mentioned. And these are her words. The library belongs to all of Winchester's citizens and is the heart of the community. It offers everyone, regardless of age, ethnicity, religion, or socioeconomic status, free and equal access to information, resources, and services. To respond to patrons' increased expectations, the library must also navigate the ever-changing technological landscape. Adapting to constantly evolving technologies requires adequate funding for staff, training, equipment, and software. I support the library in its endeavor to stay flexible enough to respond to patrons' growing demands for online services and materials. In addition, it is equally important for the library to maintain a robust printed material and media collection of books, periodicals, and DVDs. In order to effectively position the Winchester Library for the future, it is my goal for the library to be on the forefront of technological advances, to enhance its outstanding printed material collection, and to maintain its comfortable, welcoming space for all of Winchester's citizens. So a hand for all three of our candidates. Thank you. And thank you all, audience. We are going to take the next almost 25 minutes so that you can take a break and meet and greet the candidates in the contested precincts of 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. There are 192 elected town meeting members from 8 precincts. Elected town meeting members play an important part in Winchester town government since they are the policy-making body for the warrants referred to them by the Board of Selectmen, including the approval of the town budget in the spring of each year and all other financial issues which impact the town. On April 1st, voters will elect a third of the 192 town meeting members. Candidates for town meeting will be in the hallway outside the auditorium. If they couldn't make it, there's a table for candidate handouts. We will flick the lights and ring bells to warn you when the candidate forum will continue with candidates for the state senate. Thank you.
If you were here for the first section, I apologize, but we're going to repeat some of the introductory remarks in case for people who weren't here, and also because this segment will be offered separately by WinCam to other towns in the district. Good afternoon. Welcome to a Day at the Races Candidate Forum, sponsored by the League of Women Voters Winchester. I am Rosemary Pye, a member of the steering committee. I want to particularly thank the organizer of this program, Joanne Michalak, and her assistants in planning this program, Leslie Kennedy, Betsy Krieger, and Nancy Schrock. We are going now to hear from the 2 candidates for the state senate vacancy for the 5th Middlesex District of Malden, Melrose, Reading, Stoneham, Wakefield, and the precincts 1, 2, 3, and 8 in Winchester. This is the state senate seat formerly held by Catherine Clark. The other precincts are represented by State Senator Patricia Jalen. Before we begin, I just wanted to speak briefly about the League of Women Voters. It's open to women and men. Throughout its 93-year history, the League has provided fair and enlightening candidate debates for the benefit of voters. The League's activities support informed participation in government and increased public understanding of major policy issues. Based on grassroots membership input, the League also seeks to influence public policy through education and advocacy. Our moderator today is Patty Muldoon, who's from Arlington. It's our practice to always have somebody who's not a voter in this particular election. She's an experienced, trained League moderator and has helped us in the past, and we're delighted to have her back. She's about to explain the ground rules to you and start the debate. Thank you, Patty.
Good afternoon. Thanks, Rosemary. So, the exciting debate for the state senate. We will follow a basic format of opening statements, question and answer, rebuttal time, closing statements. And I have biographies from the candidates, so I can read those to give you a little introduction to our 2 candidates for today. We've changed our format just a little bit. So, as you know, the questions have been submitted by the public in advance to ask the candidates, and the candidates will have a minute and a half to respond to most of the questions, and then 30 seconds for rebuttal. And we have some follow-up questions in some cases, which will be 30 seconds for a follow-up question. Let me go straight away to Democrat Jason Lewis, who serves as the state representative for the 31st Middlesex District, representing the people of Stoneham and Winchester. State Representative Lewis was first elected to the Massachusetts House of Representatives in 2008. He serves as vice chair of the Joint Committee on Public Health. He co-founded and serves as the House chair for the legislature's Prevention for Health Caucus. And last year, he led efforts to create a first-in-the-nation Prevention and Wellness Trust, which allots $60 million to community-based public health and wellness programs across the Commonwealth. This last spring, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council named Representative Lewis Legislator of the Year for his work on regional collaboration. Representative Lewis lives in Winchester with his wife, Susan, a middle school science teacher, and they are raising their two daughters, Sophie and Jessie, who attend the Winchester Public Schools. Republican Monica Medeiros is a Melrose Alderman at large. She currently chairs the Protection and License Committee and serves as the aldermanic representative on the School Building Committee. She previously served 3 terms as a ward alderman and a term on the Melrose School Committee. Last year, Monica Medeiros was elected as District 5 representative on the Massachusetts Municipal Councilors Association, representing 13 cities, including Malden, Melrose, Boston, and Cambridge, and by virtue of this position, serves on the board of directors for the Massachusetts Municipal Association. She was elected 3 times in the presidential primary to serve as the Republican State Committeewoman for this state Senate district, which prior to redistricting included every city and town in the district except Winchester. She chose not to run again in 2012 and is now finishing her first term as the Melrose Republican City Committee Chairman. In her professional career, Monica has worked most of the past 10 years in home financing and real estate, working directly with individuals seeking to purchase or refinance their homes. A lifelong resident of Melrose, Ms. Medeiros is a product of the Melrose Public Schools. She went on to graduate summa cum laude from Northeastern University with a bachelor's degree in political science. She later earned a master's degree in political communication from Emerson College. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts' Constitution outlines the responsibilities of the 40 state senators. Each senator's duties varies according to their stature and party affiliation. The Senate has many committees that focus on particular responsibility, as does the House. Committees include Ways and Means, Steering, Rules and Ethics, Capital Expenditures, Bills, Drug Abuse and Treatment, Climate Change, Audit and Oversight, and last but not least, a state senator acts as conduit between the federal government and local authorities and residents of the district that he or she represents. So we will step into our opening statements, and the opening, each candidate is given 2 minutes, and by a flip of the coin, Monica Medeiros will begin. Ms. Medeiros.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Muldoon. Thank you, Ms. Pye, and to all the League of Women Voters for having us here today, to WinCam for taping this, and of course to everyone in the audience, both here at Winchester High School and those who will see it in the future. My name is Monica Medeiros. I am the Republican nominee for the state Senate seat in the 5th Middlesex District for this special election. And I think today you're going to see that you have a clear choice in this election. I am an independent-minded person. I have been elected 5 times within the city of Melrose as an alderman and as a school committee member. And I bring with me that experience along with my private sector experience. And I understand the concerns that many residents have, that they feel like they're being stretched by all the increases in taxes and fees and water and sewer bills and the effects that the past few years have had on our local aid and especially our education. We also know we need to look at the future of our state and our Commonwealth in terms of jobs, job security, and how this affects our elderly as well. And I feel that I can do a good job and that I don't have a philosophy that means that all taxes and raising taxes is always the answer. I think we can do more with less. I know we've done that in the city of Melrose and done a good job with it. And if you give me the honor of sending me to be your next state senator, I will try to bring that model and what I've learned in Melrose to the State House. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jason Lewis.
Good afternoon, everyone. And I, too, want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting the forum and for your work on civic engagement in our community. Thank you all for joining us here and for watching at home. You know, I never planned on serving in state government. Prior to 5 years ago, I worked for almost 15 years in the private sector and helped to build 2 successful software companies. But my wife and I have always been very active in the community, and when my 2 daughters began in the Winchester public schools, I came to understand the challenges in funding our public schools and ensuring adequate and equitable funding for all of our schools, and that was one of the prime motivations for me to run for office. Since 2008, I've had the great privilege of representing the towns of Stoneham and Winchester in the House of Representatives, and I believe that I've been an effective leader on behalf of my constituents on a number of key issues. First, local economic development projects that enhance the quality of life in our communities. Second, securing local aid and education funding to ensure adequate and equitable funding for our schools. Third, working hard to contain healthcare costs so that healthcare is more affordable for our families, our government, and our small businesses. And lastly, working to improve our state government, make it more efficient, more accountable, and more transparent to our needs. I've been able to achieve these results by bringing people together from across the spectrum, Democrats and Republicans. Catherine Clark leaves big shoes to fill in the state Senate, and I'm proud that she has endorsed me in this race. So have more than 30 local elected officials from all the communities across the district, including most of my opponent's colleagues on the Melrose Board of Aldermen. They're supporting me because they're confident that based on my track record in both the public and private sectors, I can bring people together to deliver results for our communities and improve the quality of life. Thank you. I ask for your vote on April 1st.
Thank you. Now we're going to start with our question and answer part of the forum. Questions were solicited in advance from the public. Candidates will start with their responses in alphabetical order, then we'll switch. Responses will be 1.5 minutes each. Rebuttals will be 30 seconds, and I might follow up if it seems appropriate. And I want to encourage the candidates, don't feel like you have to respond or rebut to everything because we have more questions from your future constituents than we'll be able to get to. So with that encouragement for succinctness, let's go to question 1. And this will start with candidate Lewis. When you arrive in the Senate, what will your top 3 priorities for the 5th District be?
So in the Senate, I would look to continue to focus on the issues that have been my priorities while serving in the House for these past 5 years and where we've made some significant progress. I touched on them briefly in my opening remarks. First of all, working on behalf of our communities, local economic development projects for our communities, such as new schools. We're building 3 new ones in the communities I represent right now. Public transportation and continuing to improve public transportation. Supporting our small businesses in our communities. Flood mitigation, where we've had a significant success in the district I represent. So that would be the first, local economic development. Second would be education funding. We've made great progress in this area, but we still have work to do to ensure that our education funding formula, Chapter 70, supports the needs of all of our children in all of our schools so that it's adequate and equitable. And third, continuing to work to improve the quality and the affordability of health care for all of our residents. Healthcare is something so important to all of us. I believe it should be a basic human right, but it's continuing to eat away more of our budgets, family budgets, local government budget, and the state government. We've made some great progress in that area that I'm proud to have played an important part of, and we need to continue to focus on improving the quality and cost effectiveness of healthcare.
Candidate Medeiros, top 3 priorities.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the question, and I would have to say the top 3 priorities in particular are obviously local aid is of utmost concern to me as a local official, and I think to many of those in the other communities in this district. And of course, that pertains to education as well. One of the second would be something that's been a big concern to me, and it's been a big concern to the people in my city of Melrose, where we're struggling with water and sewer bills that are just astronomically high. And I have some plans to work on focusing on those. In terms, I would also jump right in and submit a bill that would put a cap on the spending that the MWRA could spend of 2.5%, the same that our cities and towns face. And lastly is the budget and our spending and making sure that we can try and be more transparent. The great thing about this special election is that it's April 1st. This is a special election, it's midterm. The person who goes in there is going to be ready to jump right into the budget and see what we can do at the state level to make things better, because we can't keep going and spending the way we have. We have to look at how we can consolidate and how we can streamline and become more efficient. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, to rebut.
So both my opponent and I agree how important local aid is in funding for our schools, and I'm proud that the time that I've been in office, the funding for local aid in education in the district I represent has gone up by $3.5 million, almost 48%. But I think it's important to point out that you need to be consistent, and if my opponent really believes in increasing local aid, you can't do that while at the same time cutting taxes. You're not going to be able to either increase local aid, in fact you'd have to cut it, or you're going to blow a hole in the state budget and have unbalanced budgets. So we have to be intellectually honest, I believe, with the voters.
Thank you. Ms. Medeiros.
Thank you. And this is a great point of where our differences are, because cutting taxes can often spur the economy, and increasing taxes on businesses, as we've seen, it slows the economy and cuts jobs. And when we have more jobs and we have more sales, we create more taxes, we create more income, we create more revenue. So you can cut taxes and spur growth and have more revenue in the state.
Transportation is critical for the cities and towns which you represent. What are your priorities and how would you fund them? Ms. Medeiros.
Transportation is very important, and I have to say my opponent this past term, has voted to increase our taxes with the hopes of having a transportation bond bill of $300 million to be released. And unfortunately, what we've seen is only $200 million have been released to our cities and towns through Chapter 90. We have to look at transportation, but I don't want to be, I think we've seen too many times where money is promised to us and it doesn't actually get delivered. So we need to look at how we can streamline. Maybe we bring the MBTA out of being an authority and bring it in with the state government. We have to look at new ways of doing things, because it's just not working as is.
So public transportation and transportation infrastructure in general is critical to our quality of life and to the economic growth of the greater Boston region, and that's why it's something I focused on. I was able to work with the community to secure funding under federal stimulus money for improvements to the Wedgmere commuter rail station. We're currently in progress with rebuilding the Winchester Center commuter rail station, and those are very important infrastructure projects. And I believe in supporting public transportation and public transportation infrastructure all across the district. This is another clear distinction between my opponent and I, because if you're going to say that transportation is important, if you want safe roads, if you want safe bridges, if you want an MBTA that runs on time and provides good service and supports economic growth, we have to be willing to pay for it. And so, for example, I was willing to support a modest increase in the gas tax last year of 3 cents, and that hadn't been increased since 1991. And I think that that's what we need to do in order to have strong infrastructure. So for my opponent to say, yes, transportation's important, but then say, well, we're not going to be able to pay for it, again, it just doesn't add up.
Ms. Medeiros, rebut?
Thank you. And yes, and in the city of Melrose, you know, we have bonded in this past year, passed a large bond for transportation improvements within the city. That is spending money, but it's also keeping within our operating budget, so we're not asking for more from our residents, and we're doing it within our budget. Thanks.
Mr. Lewis.
With all due respect, you know, balancing a budget and the local level, whether that's a town or a city, is certainly challenging, but it is vastly different from balancing a budget at the state level. It's orders of magnitude different, and the responsibilities that the state government has are much different from what our local government has. The important thing is, I think we both recognize that having safe roads, bridges, good public transportation is critical to our communities. The question is, we have to then own up and say, this is something we have to support. And I think when we did increase the gas tax by 3 cents, that was a modest amount that's affordable for our families and supports our transportation system.
We'll just continue this with a follow-up question. There is a ballot initiative to reduce the tax on gasoline. What is your position? You have 30 seconds for a response, 30 seconds for a rebut if you need it. Ms. Medeiros.
Thank you. I am in support of the ballot question, which would repeal the automatic increase in the gas tax. So that is the automatic increase that is now tied to the consumer price index, which takes away any responsibility that the legislature has for voting on future increases. So I am opposed to that. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis, please hold your applause.
I understand why some people might have a concern with the indexing to inflation, but I do not support the ballot question. Part of the reason we're in the very difficult position we are and we have so much crumbling infrastructure is because the gas tax hasn't been touched since 1991. So in 20 years, it's lost more than 25% of its value to inflation. That's why we need to ensure that the funding will be there going forward, and all we're saying is it should just keep up with inflation, no more than that.
Thank you. And would you like to do a follow-up rebuttal?
No, thank you.
We're good? Okay. Given the density of population in the 5th District and its close proximity to Boston, what do you see as the right balance between development and maintenance of the character of our town? Mr. Lewis.
This is such an interesting and important question. I think what's really exciting is we're seeing a reverse of the trend that we saw in the post-war years, 1950s, 1960s, where people were leaving the cities and moving out into the suburbs and kind of spreading as far apart from each other as they could, and obviously all of that was driven by car culture. And I think what we're now seeing is so many people, young and old, are looking to embrace moving back into a more urban area. So not just cities, but town centers and city centers. And I think there's great opportunity for us in the 5th Middlesex District, whether that's in the city of Malden or right here in Winchester or other towns, to invest in local economic development in our town centers, doing this through mixed-use development that brings in more housing for young families and also for seniors, and also the required zoning changes that we need to do that, and supporting that kind of smart growth development. We've got the public transportation with commuter rail and buses and T-service, which we can build around. That's a great place to work from. And I think that's going to be a great driver of sustainable growth for us in our communities.
Ms. Medeiros, the right balance.
Thank you. I think development is something that should primarily be coming from, in terms of housing and things like that, from the local level, from the cities and towns. We've done some different things, like change zoning in particular areas where we felt as a community in Melrose that it made sense to do. But in other other instances, the will of the community and the neighbors and the integrity of the town for what they feel is the quality of life should be honored. And I think I'd like to see us reform Chapter 40B, because too often you see large developments come in and the neighbors that are in the area are sometimes left out of the discussion, and things that go completely out of character for the area. Certainly smart growth around places where there's public transportation make a lot of sense, and we can work with the state level and the federal level to see some spurs for economic development within the business communities in our district.
Mr. Lewis?
I would just briefly add this. Patty had mentioned in the introduction that I was recognized as Legislator of the Year by the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, which works on regional planning for the whole area. And actually the reason that I earned that recognition was because of my work on this issue of regional collaboration and local economic development on a transit-oriented or smart growth basis, again, which is balancing economic development in our communities with being able to preserve open space and the quality of life that we enjoy living where we do.
Thank you. Another follow-up, 30 seconds on this. What role does green space play? And we'll start again with Mr. Lewis.
I think we sort of touched on this a little bit before, and of course that's something that's hugely important to our quality of life, whether that's our town common or our parks and playgrounds or our athletic fields for our kids. So again, I think being able to find those economic development opportunities that are more concentrated in our city centers and our town centers that fit within the character and the scale of our communities, with mixed use, for example, with retail on the ground floor, housing or commercial on the upper floors. That's how we move forward and at the same time protect and preserve our open space and our green space.
Ms. Medeiros.
Thank you. Yes, this district is blessed to have a tremendous amount of green space in our communities with our parks and places like Lake Quannapowitt, the Middlesex Fells, and so on. So it's important that we protect these treasures and that we don't over-encroach. And so we need to be wise in the way that we develop. And again, I think that comes from the local control of the local cities and towns, that we don't over-encroach. Thank you.
Can we move on? No. What do you see as the state's role in funding pre-K and full-time kindergarten education? Ms. Medeiros.
Thank you. We have actually voted as an alderman to fully fund kindergarten in the city of Melrose, and for all-day kindergarten. And we do that with some funding from the state, and it's appreciated. I think we're having a bit of a time trying to manage all the expectations that there are on the schools right now. There's of course, there's MCAS, there's changes to Common Core, there is the park test, and there's lots of financial responsibilities on the schools right now that for K through 12 as it is. I don't feel that now is the time to expand beyond that. I think we need to make sure we have a good control over what we have in place and make sure that we can fully fund it. We haven't seen a lot of increases in Chapter 70 funds, which are education funds, but we do, of course, have ever-increasing costs like everybody else for insurance and utilities and everything in the school budget. So I think focus on what we have now, and now is not the time to look to expand that. Thank you.
Mr. Lewis.
I think it's a tragedy, actually, that we have more than 30,000 children in our Commonwealth who are trying to get slots in preschool that their families can afford so they can get a decent start in life, and there's no funding for them. There's no opportunity for those 30,000 boys and girls. You know, our state, we don't have gold mines or silver mines. We don't have oil. We don't have natural gas. What powers our economy is intellectual capital. And that means we have to have a great school system, K through 12, higher ed, whether that's public or private. That's what drives innovation. That's what drives our success. And we know from years and years of research that this all starts not in first grade, not in kindergarten, it's preschool. That kids need a strong start in life in those early years, 2, 3, 4. That gives them the potential to develop be successful in school and go on in life, and that's what allows them to contribute to our economy and to our society. And right now, unfortunately and sadly, there are too many children who are not getting that opportunity at an early enough age. So I think it absolutely needs to be a priority. I think we've done more in this area in the last few years, but not nearly enough to address those needs in many of our communities, including some of those in the 5th Middlesex District.
I want to just let you know we've got 2 more related questions on education, and I want to offer you the opportunity to rebut now if you want to.
That's okay, thank you.
What do you see as the state's role in funding special education? And this is a 30-second one. Ms. Medeiros.
Special ed is probably one of the most difficult areas that we face in a local level trying to fund. As much as possible, we try to work within our budget and keep people and kids within our own school system, but sometimes we have to, this is more than a 30-second question, we have to send kids out of district, and the tuitions can be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is all on the local cities and towns, and we need some of that burden lifted off the communities and taken up at the state level, because it's unsustainable. We can't do it at the city level.
Mr. Lewis.
So this is something that Monica and I agree on. It is a very challenging burden for our local school districts. There are expenses that are often unpredictable. And this is one of the main reasons that I focused so heavily on how we fund public education, in the Commonwealth, and that I'm the lead sponsor of legislation to update our school funding formula, Chapter 70, so that it fully accounts for the special needs requirements that our local school districts have, as well as things like new technology, which has changed so much in the last 20 years, teacher professional development, and other needs that our schools have that we're not fully accounting for today.
Anytime you can rebut. Do you want to?
I would like to just add that I think one area where the state might be able to help is in maybe making some requirements that these schools that we send kids to for outside tuitions, that sometimes they would change their tuitions in the middle of the year or at arbitrary times, and perhaps say that tuitions can only go up at a certain time of year, so that way planning can be done better at the local level.
Mr. Lewis?
I would just add that, one of the ways that I think about solving problems is both, what you can do immediately to help, and then what is the longer-term solution. My previous answer in terms of updating and reforming our school funding formula, that's a mid to longer-term solution. But I would point out one of the things I've worked on actually with the town of Winchester is what I think is a very creative near-term solution, which is what is known as a Special Education Stabilization Fund. And that's something that I've introduced in legislation and would help in the near term to create stability in funding for our school districts when it comes to unpredictable special ed costs.
Do you support lifting caps on charter schools? And again, this is 30 seconds, and let's go back and start with you.
So this is a difficult issue. There are certainly some charter schools that are doing a great job for our kids and are getting really good results, and then there are others where the results are maybe more mixed. I think what I would like to see is before we would add more seats and more charter schools, we do have to first make sure that again, back to our funding again, that's not hurting the regular public schools, because the money does follow the children. So we need to do a better job of accounting for that and protecting the funding for our regular public schools. And we also need to ensure that our charter schools are in fact reflective of the full range of students that our regular public schools have to teach. So I think if we can do those things, then we'd be able to consider adding more charter schools and seats.
Ms. Medeiros.
Thank you. Yes, I would be open to having us bring on more charters, but I really feel that we fully need to fund the schools that we have, and the charter school reimbursement line item has not been funded in the budget for the past several years, and it's something that we need to be able to make sure we can pay for the schools that we have currently before we bring on new schools. And thank you.
Do you want to rebut?
Nope.
Very good. All right. Another follow-up. What is your position on the National Common Core Standards and Curriculum being implemented in Massachusetts public schools and nationally. And this is a 1 minute, and we started twice with Ms. Medeiros. I think we'll come back and start with Mr. Lewis.
So I think that overall we need to seek to find the right balance in our schools between standards and testing. I think there are starting to be concerns that we're pushing that pendulum too far in terms of the amount of testing that we're doing and curriculum standards. I do think that the Common Core, which we are moving towards now, does make sense for us. There's economies of scale in adopting that and working with other states. I think our State Department of Education and other experts are confident that that will not lower standards in Massachusetts, because obviously we are doing very well compared to other states when it comes to our schools, and we don't want our standards to decline. So I think as long as we're able to continue to maintain high standards and strike that right balance between testing and standards and being able to have creativity in the classroom, then I think that's acceptable.
Ms. Medeiros, the Common Core.
Thank you. Again, I think this is an issue of local control. Our state government requires that we provide a free public education to our citizens, and I think educational decisions should be made at the state level along with our cities and towns and the school committees of those districts. And I think we made a mistake by going to Common Core. Massachusetts has been first in the nation in education, and I don't think it's giving too much control over our curriculum and our decisions in our schools to the federal level, and I think that's a mistake. So I would like to see us move away from the Common Core. It's costing a lot of money to our school systems for new curriculum materials, and I think in the end, the outcome is not going to necessarily be better when we were first in the nation. Thanks.
Please. Thank you. We really want to hear what they have to say. So would you care to rebut?
Yes, I would, actually. I don't believe that my opponent is accurate here in her assessment. This is not a federal, these standards are not being developed by the federal government and imposed on us. They're being developed by states working together, trying to combine their expertise. Our state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, has been a very active participant in this process, and if anything, these standards are even stronger. They reflect modern curriculum. The curriculum can't stand still. We can't be teaching today what we were teaching 20 or 30 years ago. It needs to evolve given changes in the world and society we live in. So that's entirely appropriate, I think, to be updating these standards in the curriculum, and that's what the Common Core is allowing us to do.
Thank you. Actually, a couple of weeks ago, I had the opportunity to visit the Mystic Valley Charter School, which is one of the best in the nation, and in our district. And I asked them, what is different about the way that you teach here versus the regular traditional public schools? And they said, what we actually do is we're actually kind of old school. We stick to the same methods of teaching that we had 50 years ago, and that's what's made them successful. So sometimes innovation is not always the answer. Sometimes it's doing what works. Thanks.
Thank you. And moving off of education into jobs, we will begin with Ms. Medeiros with the next question. Massachusetts has thousands of unfilled jobs requiring skills that many of our unemployed cannot fill. At the same time, our population is declining. Is there a role for state government to reverse these trends? I have a minute and a half.
This is another question that will definitely be more than a minute and a half. There is something, and there's some things we can do on the short-term level. We have one of the longest periods that somebody can be on unemployment insurance in the country. We could perhaps look at shortening that by a couple of weeks and using those funds to provide some job training to those workers. We also have to look at, we have a population decline. We've lost our congressman this year, or congresswoman, if you will. And we have a decline, and I think it's because we've had a lack of growth in our economy. We've had a lot of policies that have been passed that have been very difficult on our businesses, including a 25% increase in the sales tax, an increase in the gas tax, increases through the implementation of the Affordable Care Act in health insurance premiums. And I think we need to do things to make it make it easier for businesses to succeed and to hire people, and then we maybe fill some of these jobs. Thanks.
Mr. Lewis?
As I mentioned earlier, before I ran for office, I actually had experience working in the private sector and helping to grow two successful high-tech companies, which accounted for many hundreds of jobs in the greater Boston area. So of the two of us, I actually have more direct experience with what it takes to build a business and hire people. Last year, 2013, the state actually added 55,000 new jobs, which is the most job growth annually since 2000. So while we still have too many people in our state who are unemployed or underemployed, our economy, is growing and is recovering from the Great Recession. It is clearly the case, as pointed out in the question, that part of the challenge we have is a mismatch, I think, between the jobs that are available, which are particularly in more of the high-tech areas, and clean energy is a good example, or healthcare fields, and the skills that many of our workers have, sometimes even coming right out of high school or college, other times, mid-career. So absolutely providing good, smart, targeted workforce training and workforce development programs. We're doing some of these today. Makes sense. Having better connections between our high schools and our community colleges make a lot of sense, and our employers, and connecting that into regional employers so that our community colleges and our workforce development programs are providing the skills that are required by the employers in that particular region of the state. So we've got some good pilot programs doing this, and I think we should build on that.
Rivat?
Thank you. I'll pass this time.
Okay. How do you think health care insurance is working in Massachusetts? What is the impact of the Affordable Health Care Act? Does it need adjustments? And we will go back. Ms. Medeiros.
Thank you. I unfortunately believe that the implementation of the Affordable Care Act here in Massachusetts has not been working so well for us. We had a very user-friendly system with the Mass Health Connector website, which has now been basically not functioning since the implementation earlier this year. I'm hearing continual stories from people who are losing their health insurance, they're losing their choice in doctors, they're paying a lot more in premiums, and I think the intended consequences to have more expanded health insurance and health care access have not really been met. I do think that we had a good system here that was working, not perfect, but was working, and I'd like to see us apply for a waiver from this act, because we had something that coincided with the intent of the law in place.
Let me start by saying that I believe very deeply that healthcare should be a basic human right. I don't think somebody should lose their healthcare because they lose their job or because they just can't afford to pay for care for themselves or their child. And I'm proud to live in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, where we have the highest rate of health insurance of any state in the country. And that's because we actively have worked hard on this issue. Virtually every child in Massachusetts is covered by insurance, and about 98% of our adults are covered. And the way we did that, which was really bipartisan, was Democrats working together with Governor Romney and the business community, became a model for what we're now doing nationally. The fact is that, yes, we've had implementation challenges with the Affordable Care Act, and those folks who've been running the connector and the private contractor that they hired to do that work should be held accountable for the problems that they've had. And I've heard from a number of constituents who've been struggling to renew their health insurance. But the bigger picture is we will fix these issues, and the end result will be that our health insurance system will be even stronger. We will have even more people who are covered with even more affordable health care and better plans as a result when we work out the problems that we're currently having.
Rebut?
It's just, oftentimes I'm hearing it's almost taking options away from people, as people are having to choose for plans that have more coverage than they want or they need. I would really like to see us be able to move away from something where if you do lose your job, you don't lose your health insurance, where you would be able to purchase your health insurance outside of your employment, and that it could sustain with you. This is a much bigger issue than we're probably going to solve today, but that's the way I would like to see us go in the future.
Well, that's exactly what we have in Massachusetts. So if you don't have health insurance through your employer, then you have access through the Health Connector to be able to purchase health insurance for yourself and your family, and that is affordable for you depending on your income level. So that's exactly what we've been doing, and that's why we have been successful in covering, as I said, 98% of our families. So we absolutely have to get these issues worked out that we've had, and unfortunately the contractor that was hired is the same one that screwed up the federal website as well, and they've been fired. But we do have a new consulting firm that's been brought on board by the state, and we're watching closely to make sure that they get those issues fixed as soon as possible.
Thank you. Moving on to another issue. Income inequality has produced extremes in the distribution of wealth. Is there a role for state government in addressing this issue? And if so, how? Mr. Lewis.
In my mind, this is one of the two most important, significant issues facing our society, the other being climate change. Let me answer the question by sharing with you a statistic which is really shocking, I think. So if you go back 30 years ago, so 1980, and you look at the ratio of what the average CEO was making in income at that time and the minimum wage, okay, so CEO salary ratio of that to the minimum wage. And remember, back in 1980, our CEOs were not struggling. They were doing quite well. They were living very comfortably. Fast forward to today, if you had the same ratio between what our CEOs are now making and the minimum wage, anyone want to hazard a guess what the minimum wage would actually be today? Well, we don't have audience participation, so I'll have to answer that. It would be $60 an hour. We would have a minimum wage today of $60 an hour. And the minimum wage in Massachusetts currently is slightly above the federal minimum wage, which is $8 an hour. You can be working full-time, and we have many, many people working full-time who cannot even pay their bills. It's not even a living wage, $8 an hour. So income inequality is a huge problem facing our society, rich and poor alike. And I think there's a number of things that we need to do. One of those is obviously raise the minimum wage, and I'm a strong supporter of that. And another is we need to make sure every worker has earned sick time.
I'll give you time in rebut.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Medeiros.
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, sure. Income inequality has produced extremes in the distribution of wealth. Is there a role for state government in addressing this issue? And if so, how?
Yes, and I think this again speaks to some of the bigger problems that we're seeing here. I talk with people every day who are, maybe they've lost their job, but they've never quite gotten back to work, and there's so many people who are underemployed, who are taking on multiple jobs. It's affecting their family life and their personal life. And I think it goes to looking at the economy and what we can do to help increase jobs and the availability of jobs, because this discrepancy keeps going farther and farther apart. And it speaks to the importance of looking for ways to spur the economy while not raising additional taxes and additional fees on people, because how can they possibly, some of them can't make it. I think there are things, again, where we could have better policies for our businesses that include a reduction in the sales tax so that we don't lose sales to New Hampshire. We have to look at the implementation, again, of the Affordable Care Act. We see different things all the time where workers' hours are cut to coincide so that they don't have to give benefits. And we have to look at, some of these policies that I know my opponent is talking about. We have to look at both sides of the equation and the effect that they have on businesses. Because if employers cut hours, that's one of the first things that they do, is cut hours to not offer benefits, then then we'll have even more people in this discrepancy between the rich and the poor.
Thank you. And I'm going to give you each 30 seconds more to talk about this, and I'm hoping that you will clarify the roles that you would like to see state government take on this issue.
One of the significant drivers of this inequality has, in fact, been Republican trickle-down economic policies, which is the kinds of things my opponent is talking about, which has just made people who are well off even more well off, and working families in even more difficult positions. So the two things that I think the state government can do now, and we should act as soon as possible, is one, is to raise the minimum wage, and I'd like to see that raised to somewhere around $11 an hour. And second is make sure that every worker has the ability to earn sick time so that they don't have to risk losing pay, or worse, even losing their job when they have to take time off work because they're sick or a loved one is sick.
Thank you. Ms. Medeiros.
Thank you. The last time I checked, the state legislature and the governor's office have been controlled by the Democratic Party here in Massachusetts for a long time.
Oh, come on.
And
give her a chance to speak.
And currently there's only 4 Republicans out of 40 in the state Senate. There's a big imbalance. And I think it's disingenuous to say that this is Republican trickle-down economics when it's been, you and your party that have been responsible for the economic decisions in the
You
state.
are cutting her time. Please don't. We want to hear what she has to say.
Thank you. Well, it's been responsible for the economic decisions and the economic climate that we're in. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, don't let me chastise you one more time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Everybody play nice, please.
Okay. Housing. How would you address the lack of diversity in housing? Mr. Lewis.
Right, so another significant challenge for our area. We talked about transportation earlier and how important that is to sustainable economic growth in our area. Housing, similarly. We can't achieve our goals for regional growth in a sustainable way unless we have affordable housing that meets the needs of a range of different people. So for example, young families. One of the challenges we see is we have great colleges and universities. We're attracting students here from all over, but then if they can't find affordable housing, they have to leave, or at least leave the greater Boston area. Same with many of our seniors who want to be able to stay in the community but be able to downsize. So being able to encourage more affordable housing of different kinds is very important. The answer is not huge, massive developments like what's currently being proposed for the Weiss Farms site in Stoneham, which is completely out of character and scale with the neighborhood. That's not the answer. The answer is having smaller developments. I talked about mixed-use developments earlier, where we could do that in our city centers and town centers, which also supports our local businesses. So there are a range of strategies we can be pursuing in order to increase the stock of a range of different affordable housing.
Ms. Medeiros.
Thank you. This issue is near to my heart because my regular professional life, I work in real estate and mortgage financing. So I work with people all the time who are trying to buy their first homes, trying to stay in their current homes, and it's a challenge. And again, it goes back to the economy, but I don't want to overplay that. In particular, we do have to look at new growth opportunities, especially as they relate to smart growth areas. I agree with my opponents that the Weiss Farm development is far oversized, and too many times the local zoning is overridden by the idea of affordable housing, and that's really, as we've seen at some of the developments, even in Melrose, that what is affordable is very subjective. But one area where I think we could make a difference in is we see there is big lines for public housing, and I don't think that people who are here illegally should bump the line ahead of our seniors, ahead of our veterans, in order to get public housing. And I think that's something that we could really make a difference in.
Would you care to rebut?
No.
All righty. Thank you. Would you support amending the state constitution to implement a graduated income tax? And you only have 30 seconds, Ms. Medeiros.
No.
Quick.
I think we do have we have a flat tax that we all pay the same. I think there is some fairness in that, and I would not support
changing that to a graduated tax. Thanks. Mr. Lewis.
I don't think it'll surprise you we'll differ on this issue. Actually, our current tax system is very unfair and regressive. Those who have the least income in our state actually pay more as a percentage of their income in local and state taxes than those who are the most well off. So our current system is clearly not fair. And so a progressive income tax, which is what we have at the federal level, is a much fairer way to raise the revenue necessary. It has nothing to do with the amount of revenue that we raise. It could be exactly the same as what we raise today, but it's just a fairer way of arriving at that amount. Many other states have a progressive income tax, and I think that would be the right direction for Massachusetts to move in.
Rebut?
I have to do this. So oftentimes people ask me, what does it mean to be a progressive? And I think Representative Lewis just summed it up. Progressive means higher taxes. Thanks.
Can I rebut that? That's not at all what I said. In fact, if you were listening, I said you could have the same amount of revenue, but you would raise that differently, which means, yes, some people might pay more, but many people would pay less.
And on that stunningly controversial note, we're ending the Q&A part of this discussion. And I think you guys did great. So we are going to start with Jason Lewis for the closing statement. And your closing, you have 1 minute.
All right. Well, thank you again to the League of Women Voters. Patty, thank you to my opponent. I think this has been a very substantive and interesting debate. And I think it should be clear to all that the voters have a definite choice to make on April 1st, a clear choice. And they can choose between somebody who has proven effective, strong leadership for our communities and will continue to move our communities forward, or a candidate who does not have that experience, certainly not at the state level, and will embrace conservative policies that have resulted in the kind of trickle-down economy that has really hurt our middle class. As we know, Catherine Clark leaves big shoes to fill in the state Senate now that she's in Congress, and I'm proud to have her support in this race, and I'm proud to have the support of more than 30 of our municipal leaders who really understand the challenges that we face in our communities and have worked, many of them have worked closely with me in the state legislature. And that includes, in fact, most of my opponent's colleagues on the Melrose Board of Aldermen, who obviously have worked closely with her. And again, I believe they're supporting me because they know, based on my track record in both the private sector and the public sector, that I've been able to bring people together and get results for our communities. And that's what I would continue to do if I have the privilege of serving in the state Senate. I asked for your vote on April 1st. Thank you.
Ms. Medeiros.
Thank you. Thank you. I would also like to thank, again, the League for hosting you, for moderating, Ms. Muldoon, sorry. My opponent, of course. And everybody, of course, for watching here in the audience and at home. Again, my name is Monica Medeiros. I am the Republican candidate for the state Senate seat in the 5th Middlesex District. I appreciate you watching. I do believe that you see a clear difference here. I have had the honor of serving my city of Melrose as a local elected official for the last 8 going on 9 years, and it's been the greatest honor. I will take many of our successes that we have at the city level and take what I've learned and bring it to the State House, where I really want to represent you and help many people. The office of State Senator affords the opportunity to help a great amount of people in many ways that are countless, and I hope to have that opportunity to serve you. April 1st, please vote. Thanks.
Thank you, and I have a couple of announcements for our passionate audience. The League would like to encourage you to submit questions and attend our upcoming hot topic, retiree healthcare premiums, on Wednesday, March 26th, 7 to 9 p.m. here at the Winchester High School Auditorium. You can submit questions for the speakers to answer by noon on the 19th to hottopic@lwvwinchester.org. That's hottopic@lwvwinchester.org. We want to offer our great thanks to WinCam Cable for filming this forum, which will be rebroadcast several times before the April 1st election on Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 37, and on demand at wincam.org. To all of you who are registered voters, please go to the polls on Tuesday, April 1st and vote. Polls are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. The League of Women Voters encourages all eligible voters to vote. This interview has been sponsored by the Winchester League of Women Voters. A big hand for our two candidates.